the scale of the disaster is enormous. We have already 158 deaths in Spain, but there are 155 that are from Valencia, and it is a big challenge now to find the dead people and also to find the missing people.
Let's start with our top story. At least 158 people have died in Spain's flooding disaster, but with many still missing, that figure is likely to rise again. More than 1,200 rescue workers, helped by drones, are taking part in the rescue operation. There is more rain forecast, and there's been criticism that the regional government was too slow to react to initial warnings. Well, Carmen Marqués Ruiz lives in Valencia City and is an ambassador to the European Climate Pact. Carmen, welcome to the programme.
Good morning. Good morning.
First of all, I know that you were trying to get home to Valencia, to your house. Were you able to? Have you been able to get there?
Yes, fortunately, last night we drove through, to the A7 that comes from the south, and we managed to arrive at Valencia. But, it was very sad to see all the cars and trucks that were stranded and all the destruction that the storm and the floods have created. But we are happy to be back in Valencia, fortunately.
Okay. Yeah, of course. Can you help us describe or understand the destruction that you have witnessed? What has happened? What does Valencia look like?
Well, in fact, it has been a kind of tsunami. We have normally what we call the gota fria. That is, these are very strong rainfalls around this time of the year. But this time it has had an unprecedented violence. And what has happened is that we had very strong rains in the interior, in the highlands on the west of the Valencia province. And this meant that normally dried riverbeds became, very, very strong rivers that overflow some areas like Utiel. So we had already these very big, strong rains and overflow of very, very small rivers in normal circumstances that affected Utiel, that is in the interior, and also Chiva and Cheste and Buñol. And all this water came down because we have, there's a big difference of the level of altitude between the interior and the coast, 1,000 meters high. And this meant that all this water arrived with lots of force. And, it affected the areas that are closer to the coast. And in particular, the southern part of the Turia River. That is like the south metropolitan area of Valencia. I have to say that the city of Valencia has not been affected by the floods. It has been affected by the disaster, of course, but not by the floods, because we had a very strong flood in 1957 that made us to decide to deviate the river. So we have now a new riverbed that is where all the extra water has gone, and this has meant that the city of Valencia has not been flooded, fortunately. And we transformed this old riverbed into a park, El Cauce del Río.
It's interesting what you say there, Carmen, about the riverbed and the changing of the path of the river after 1957 to try to avoid this kind of big flooding happening in Valencia again. Is there a suggestion then that the rerouting of the river bears at least some responsibility for not managing this unprecedented level of rainfall?
Well, you could read this in this way, but also you could read in a way that maybe now we should also invest in infrastructure that would protect these areas. I think that we have now to rethink many the ways in which we organize our space, and if indeed we will have to protect better these areas that have been affected, that are in places maybe you will have heard of them: Paiporta, Torrente, Picaña, Massanassa, Catarroja, where many of the deaths are being found. And unfortunately, we have not yet finished. We have many missing people, and we are now looking for them. That's a big priority. But the scale of the disaster is enormous. We have already 158 deaths in Spain, but there are 155 that are from Valencia, and it is a big challenge now to to find the dead people and also to find the missing people. It's now a big task for the rescue people who are working with very strong commitment and generosity.
Yeah. How has the political response been accepted or otherwise by people there? I read one report this morning which accounts for the day on Tuesday, the sort of schedule, I suppose, of Valencia's president, who seemed to be quite slow in responding to warnings and taking action. Indeed, he was attending events, receiving a certificate for the region's achievements in sustainable tourism, launching a new online healthcare assistant, holding budget talks, and perhaps not responding to the weather warnings as quickly as one may have wished.
Well, I think that, of course, we will have to review how the response has been. I for the moment, I think that we have to focus on trying to help as much as possible. But indeed, it seems to have been a delay, a very long delay between the time when the meteorology predictions arrived and the time when the political decisions were taken. So this will have to be reviewed. But frankly, also, I have to say that the scale of this disaster has exceeded what had happened in recent times. And it is the worst gota fria, the worst natural catastrophe in this century, and probably also in the last one. So it was very difficult to foresee that the disaster was going to have this magnitude. Of course, at a later point, all these will have to be reviewed and improved. But for the moment, I would prefer to focus on trying rescuing people, finding the dead people, finding the missing people, supporting the people who have now no electricity, no water. So all these things are quite urgent now. But of course, we will have to improve our process to the way our decisions will be taken in the future in case these disasters repeat themselves. But I think that we have to be aware that we are now facing a new dimension of these climate change extremes and these rainfalls, the floods, all these new phenomena are now exceeding what we have experienced in the past. So I think that we have to improve our capacity to understand the challenge and also to take all the measures, not only to reduce emissions, but also to adapt to this climate change and also to prevent this kind of disasters. But I have to say that also we are all in a learning curve. For example, there are many people who have died who try to save their cars, for example, who will be found probably dead, unfortunately, in their garage. Of course, now we know that that's the last thing you should do. But in a circumstance where, that is new for you, you try to react the best you can, but sometimes you take wrong decisions. But I don't want to exculpate anybody. But I think that we have to be also to understand that this is a disaster that exceeds the previous experiences.
Yeah, I understand, Carmen, and I appreciate you joining us this morning. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining the program.
Sorry, I would like just to add also one thing, is that, a very positive thing that has happened yesterday when the president of Spain, Pedro Sánchez, came to Valencia. We have heard also a message of unity among, between two different political parties and two different levels of administration. I think that that's very important to face climate change and to manage these kind of disasters, to work hand in hand to solve the problems, not to attack each other. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much. That's an important message. Thank you for joining us. That is Carmen Marqués Ruiz, who lives in Valencia, is an ambassador to the European Climate Pact.